So Hasan Piker went on the I've Had It podcast, and there's a moment that I want to show you guys that I think is extremely important. At this point in the interview, they're discussing how weak and ineffective Democratic leadership has been since Trump took office in January. And as you'll see in a second, Jennifer makes a point about where the Democratic base is at, and I think she nails it. She hits it right on the head. So let's check it out.
I don't know why the base, beyond the Israel thing, I don't know why they want to, if it's just still upholding patriarchal structures or protecting capitalism. But at this stage, I'm so mad as a Democrat. And listen, I was in the tank. I was Hillary. I didn't vote for Bernie. My oldest son browbeat me for that, called me a conservative, and I was that Democrat, okay? I was that Democrat. And people use the word radicalize, and I don't think that's the right language to what happened to me and what's happening to a lot of white women that look like me. I would say it's being deprogrammed, and this is what pissed me off. The Democrats won. Joe Biden won, and we all saw what happened on January 6th, and that motherfucker got elected again. They should have charged him. He should be in prison. And I just saw the breathtaking pussy at the core of that party, that y'all are playing two different games here. And that's what pissed me off about the Democrats. And I still see that going on right now with the Democratic Party. They're not standing up to him. It's like, come on.
The Democratic Party, on the other hand, is so cowardly, so feckless that they are utterly devoid of any sort of counter messaging campaign. They're just incapable of combating.
The only person that is doing a somewhat effective job at combating Trump's authoritarian regime is ironically Gavin Newsom. If you're on social media, if you're on Twitter, it's clear, at least it is to me, that Newsom's method of mocking Trump and doing Trumpism the right way, fighting fire with fire per se, is the most effective way to fight back. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want Newsom to be the Democratic nominee. He's not even in my top 50 candidates that I would want to see run. But you have to admit when things are working, and his methods are working. And if more Democrats can get on board with his method of messaging, we'll start to see the Overton window of the culture slowly shift back to where it should be. Trump won in 2024 largely because of vibes. Right? There wasn't a specific policy of his that grabbed voters' attentions. It was mostly vibes.
I have begged consistently Democrat Party consultants, the Pod Johns, when I go on their podcast, to be like, the Democrats should behave more like Donald Trump, but with good policy rather than the evil policies that are damaging to the working class that the Republicans present.
So what does Hasan mean by acting like Donald Trump, but with good policy? Donald Trump is ruthless. He's a bulldozer. He's willing to do anything to get done what he wants to do. And that's the mindset that the Democratic Party, specifically the leaders within the party, should have. They should have a bulldozing mentality. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, other members of the party who have been chosen to lead. They compromise too much. They are too weak. And as Jennifer said just a minute ago, they had their chance to go after Trump during Biden's administration. They could have prevented a second Trump presidency. Another reason to adopt Trump-style messaging is because Trump is a master at whipping votes. He has an uncanny ability to get any party member to fall in line to his agenda. Outside of a couple like Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a few others, but 99% of Republicans in Congress will do what Trump says. Now compare that to the Democratic Party. Under Joe Biden, there were two senators, Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin. Those two single-handedly prevented the Build Back Better framework from being passed. Build Back Better was the most progressive, the most aggressive attempt at changing the system since FDR. If Build Back Better would have gotten passed, progressives would be talking so much differently about Joe Biden. Now, of course, Gaza still happened. The genocide that Israel is committing on the Palestinians and the US's supply of weapons and money to help fund that would have probably stayed the same. But domestic policy-wise, if Build Back Better was passed, Joe Biden would be labeled the most progressive president since FDR. So being aggressive and ruthless in advocating and for actually implementing the policies that you want, that's the style of leadership that the Democratic Party is lacking. Now, there are a few Democrats who do this, but they're not leaders within the party. right? AOC, Zohran Mamdani, Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan, Bernie at times. These are people who, to some degree, are willing and have shown the ability to stray away from the Democratic Party's expectations, which normally is protect the status quo, protect capitalism, don't make any major changes, but make some tweaks around the edges to convince the public that they're doing something, and then forcing Democratic Congress people to fall in line. That is something that we haven't seen from the Democratic Party in so long. And unfortunately, in 2025, that is now what we call Trump-style politics. Just a straight bulldozer. Now, I want to get to what Jen said. She called the Democratic Party breathtaking pussies. What a line. This is important because I want to make this point. Jennifer symbolizes what the Democratic base has slowly been morphing into over the past 5 or 6 years. Going from voting for Hillary Clinton to what she calls deprogramming, or Republicans might call it radicalizing, to now she supports democratic socialism to some degree. And that's where the base is. They've shifted left. The voters have. Not the politicians, obviously. But this is an important moment because many moderate white women watch this show. Many Democratic women who are against the Bernies, who are against the Zohrans, who are establishment, status quo defending politician voters. They voted for Biden over Bernie in the 2020 primaries. And she is an example of when the system continues to fail us. At some point, you're going to wake up and you're going to go through a process which she calls deprogramming, where you start to learn how weak the Democratic Party is and the infinite ways in which they are not fighting for the working class like they used to. I'm hoping for some radical change in Democratic leadership. Bernie tried to pass the torch to AOC, but right now she's in some hot water with certain factions of progressives because she voted yes to send Israel defensive weapons. But I'm ready for a complete radicalization of the Democratic Party. I'm sick of the status quo, this establishment defending Joe Biden, Kamala Harris style politics, lukewarm progressive BS. And definitely go check out the rest of this video. It's an hour and 15 minutes long, but believe me, it's worth the watch. I watched most of it. They have a great conversation. So I'll put the link to the channel, to the I've Had It podcast channel in the description of this video. Go check out Hasan, obviously, if you, for some reason, haven't heard of him either. And yeah, see y'all later.